Hi, my name is Debra R. Richardson of Debra R. Richardson LLC, and I work with you to help you clean up your vendor data, clean up your vendor processes so that you pay the right vendor. And this week's Vendor Master File tip of the week is to inactivate vendors to reduce fraud. So the reason that you want to inactivate vendors to reduce fraud is because the less number of vendor records you have in your vendor master file that are active, the less number of vendors that are susceptible to both internal and external fraud. So if you do not have those vendor records active, that means those are vendor records that cannot have fraudulent bank changes done. They are vendor records that cannot have fraudulent remit addresses changed, and they also cannot have fake invoices posted against them, and then meaning they will not have diverted payments to fraudulent bank accounts. So you want to make sure that you only have existing vendors that are truly active, that you are doing business with as active vendors in your vendor master file. Now, two other points to make. One is once you inactivate those vendors, make sure that you treat those same vendors as new vendors when you need to do business with them again. So this means requiring that they submit the same supporting documentation that new vendors submit. This way you get to revalidate that vendor data, making sure the data in your vendor master file stays up to date. Now, the last point I want to make is you may be asking, well, what do I use or what threshold do I use in order to inactivate those vendors? Well, depending on your company, and every company has to decide for themselves, you need to identify whether or not you're going to inactivate vendors that have had no activity for 15, 18, or 24 months. Again, that depends on your company and your company's industry. But once you decide that, make sure you check activity for POs, payments, invoices, as well as the last modified date on your vendor record. So good luck, and make sure you tune in next week for next Tuesday's Vendor Master File tip of the week.